One of the growing must-have accessories for video shooters these days is an external monitor. Don't listen to him, what the hell does he know? Exactly, he doesn't know what he's talking about. People only come here to see the dog anyway. Guys, whoa, enough! Right, I'm trying to do a video, can you please be quiet? No? Okay, how about I just do that then? Problem solved. Okay, let's try this again. So, external monitors are becoming increasingly popular for video shooters for several different reasons. Firstly, if you're in a scenario such as myself, where you're sitting in front of a camera that doesn't have a flip around screen and you're trying to record yourself, you can't see what's going on, so an external monitor solves that problem. Secondly, even if you're behind the camera, the cheapest, smallest external monitors these days have screens that are bigger and clearer than the screens you find on the back of a camera. This can make life quite a bit easier when you're trying to record very complex scenes with a lot of things going on, because sometimes there might be stuff in the background that you don't quite see on a small screen that becomes a whole lot clearer on a bigger screen. Or because these all require HDMI cables, the monitor doesn't have to be in the same place as the camera. So if you've got a multicam setup and you can't keep an eye on all the cameras at once, you can have all the monitors in one place and keep an eye on all the angles at the same time. But there's so many different monitors on the market, what one do you choose? So today I have 5 different monitors of various functionalities and price points, and we'll look through some of the similarities and the differences and the pros and cons to each. So first up we have the F5 by Feelworld. This is currently priced on Amazon UK at £160 and Amazon.com at $160. Next to that we have the Desview S5. Now I believe the company's called Desview, although the logo looks like Bestview, and Bestview would make more sense, but I'm pretty sure it's Desview. Anyway, this is currently priced £140 or $150. This is the Fotga A50. Now, this is the TL version of the monitor, but there's 4 different versions which I'll go through later on. This one is priced at £200 UK or $230 US. Over here we have the AndyCine A6 Plus, which is priced at £250 UK or $230 US. And lastly we have another Desview monitor, the R7, which is £205 UK or $240 US. So, similarities. Well, first up, they're all 4K monitors in that they can accept a 4K input signal, but none of them actually have 4K screens. They all have full HD screens of various different sizes. The Feelworld F5, the S5 and the A50 are all 5-inch screens. The AndyCine is a 5.5 and the R7 is, you've guessed it, a 7-inch screen. Now the size of the screen might not actually be an advantage for you. Size doesn't always matter, so I keep telling myself. But depending on the scenario that you're in, I've actually found that sometimes the larger screen can actually be more of a negative. For example, in this situation, usually I would have a monitor on top of the camera. I don't today because they're all here. But the monitor I would usually use as a quick reference. I don't want to be continuously looking at the monitor, I want to be looking down the lens. I just need the monitor in my eye line so I can make sure that everything's still in the frame. And what I actually found when trying to do these videos with the R7 is that that bigger screen actually distracts me. It draws my eye away from the lens towards the monitor, and I don't want that. So for these sorts of scenarios, the 5-inch screens actually work better for me. However, if I was working behind the camera and I wanted to keep a continuous eye on the monitor itself, then that larger screen does make the image clearer to see, i.e. distractions in the background become more noticeable. So they can all accept HDMI inputs, obviously, otherwise it wouldn't work. However, the S5 only has one HDMI, so it's got a HDMI in, that is it. All the others actually are fitted with 2 HDMIs, one in and one out. So they can accept up to a 4K signal coming in that gets displayed on the screen, but that same signal can then be passed out of the second port and be sent off to an external recorder, for example. Next up, powering the screens. Now, all of these screens have the same common feature set when it comes to powering. You can use either a mains plug or you can use batteries. Now, all the screens can accept this pretty standard looking power input that this isn't even from the screens, this is from some random appliance that I had lying around the house. All bar the S5, strangely. The S5 has a DC out that uses this, which means you can run power from the monitor to the camera, but the DC in is a different, smaller plug, which is a strange choice. All of these, apart from the A50, can only accept a single battery. The A50 actually has slots for 2 of these batteries, so that means double the running time. Now with the Desviews, they can only be Sony NP-F batteries, that's it. The AndyCine and the Feelworld, they actually have slightly different mounts that can accept either the Sony or the Canon LP-E6, which might be a consideration if you're somebody that has a lot of Canon cameras and no Sony batteries. The A50 natively only accepts the Sony batteries, but you can buy an additional add-on adapter plates that convert these over to the Canon mount. Now, on the topic of the A50, while I have it, as I mentioned at the start, this is the TL model. Now there's 4 different versions: the normal A50, the A50T, the A50TL, and the A50TLS. Now, the T stands for touchscreen, the L stands for LUT, and the S stands for SDI. So that means that this has touchscreen capability, so I can navigate through all the menus just by touching the screen rather than faffing with buttons. Both the R7 and the AndyCine also have touchscreen capabilities, whereas the F5 and the S5 don't. And I'll be honest, I much prefer the touchscreen capabilities. Yes, it puts fingerprints all over the screen, but you know what? I've had absolute headaches sometimes trying to navigate around with the menu buttons. You get up and down arrows on one side, you get left and right on the other, and then you've got to scroll through all the different pages and menus and scroll across the different tabs. And half the time I end up pushing the wrong button. It's not as bad with the S5 because the buttons are at least shaped to the arrow direction, so you can kind of feel what the buttons are that you're pushing. But with the F5, not only are all the buttons the same shape so they don't feel any different, but all the labels are at the back of the buttons hiding, so when you're in front of the screen, you can't actually see what the hell you're looking at. And the arrows aren't in the same place on one side as the other, so more often than not I end up like pushing the wrong button, backtracking out of a menu, and then nearly flinging this thing at a window. The touchscreens just make life so much easier. Now the L, LUT. Again, this is a feature that is found on the AndyCine and the Desview R7, not on the other two. So if you are shooting your video footage with a log profile, the video naturally looks quite flat and desaturated. There's not a lot of colors in there. It's only when you get it into post you usually add a LUT preset onto it, and that adds all the colors and everything back into the video, and you get your finished result. But when you're recording the footage and the HDMI feed that's going into the monitor, it still has the flat picture profile, so you don't get an accurate representation of what your finished footage is going to look like. What the LUT features allow you to do is add a LUT preset to your video footage before it gets displayed on the screen, so you get to see what the finished thing's gonna look like. Now, all of these come with some LUTs included, like S-logs, some have V-logs, etc. Or you can add your own custom ones, which is what I've done. And lastly, if this was the TLS model, it would have SDI connectors here where it's just got blanking plates. Now, none of the other monitors have the option of SDI, so if you are somebody who requires them, this might be a good option for you. Now, let's talk about the displays, because let's be honest, it's kind of the most crucial part of a monitor. It's what you're looking at. Now, all of these have pretty nice looking displays. The footage when you view them on these certainly looks better than what you see on the back of a camera. All of these are advertised by their respective manufacturers as being color calibrated for accurate colors. And yet when I tested it, they were all set to a 6500 Kelvin color temperature. They all had the saturation temperatures and everything set to just the standard in the middle, nothing crazy. And I ran the same feed through all of them at the same time. As you saw at the start, I can link them all together. What I actually found is that none of them give exactly the same color look. The A6 Plus gives, to my eye, the closest representation of the original input signal. The F5 and the R7 are pretty close, but when you've got them all side by side, there's a very subtle difference. But both the S5 and the A50 look a lot warmer than the original input. Now again, not a complete disaster because you can change and manipulate all of the settings. It's just to bear in mind really that out of the box the A6 seems to have the most accurate representation. Now in terms of brightness levels, both the Desview S5 and the Feelworld F5 have maximum brightnesses of 450 nits versus the AndyCine A6 Plus at 500 nits, the Fotga A50 at 510 nits, but the Desview R7 has a whopping 1000 nits. Why might that be important, you ask? Well, to be honest, if you're shooting indoors in these scenarios, that doesn't really make that much of a difference. Even these monitors are perfectly fine. However, if you've ever tried to view your phone or the back of a monitor when you're outside in blazing bright sun, you know you really struggle to see. This is where the extra brightness of the R7 comes into play, because on a bright sunny day, this thing is so much easier to see than the others. However, usually when you're struggling to see your phone or your screen, this is where you start cupping your hand over it to shade it, and then the screen becomes much more visible. And this is kind of the point of sunshades on monitors. Now strangely, all the monitors come with sunshades to make life a little bit easier when you're shooting outdoors, apart from the R7. Clearly Desview decided that the extra brightness was more than enough and they haven't bothered with a sunshade. But all the others do, but they have their own different styles and different ways. My personal favourite is the Fotga A50 because you get this plastic cover which clips over the screen and then it opens all up and then hey presto, nice sunshade. But it also means you can keep it on the screen, close it all down, and then that'll protect the screen whilst you're transporting it around. Nice little feature. The others opt for a far more conventional just Velcro stick-on sunshade. But again, these all have different ways of doing it. The Feelworld already incorporates the Velcro strip onto the monitor, so you just attach the sunshade to it. Whereas the AndyCine and the Desview, you have to add the covers on first and then Velcro them. Now the AndyCine does this in the logical way, which is the cover goes around the edge and then the sunshade Velcros around the outside of it. Desview, for some reason with the S5, I don't know whether they were drunk when they designed this, but this cover goes over it, which then almost blocks the HDMI port, makes it a little tricky to fit in. But the Velcro they've attached to the inside, not the outside. But then it starts to stick to itself as you're trying to get it in. It's a pain in the arse, you end up swearing a lot. And if you don't get it all the way in properly, it flexes down and covers part of the screen. Why they thought that was a good idea, I don't know. Another way they do the same things differently with these is how you mount them on the camera. Now the Desview and F5 both have a single 1/4 inch screw on the side of the monitor. So to mount these on the camera, it comes with an included metal L bracket. Now these L brackets I actually don't mind, they come with a little additional cold shoe on the side so you can attach a microphone to them. But considering these monitors on their own are extremely small and light, add a metal L bracket onto it just bumps up the weight a little bit. Out of the box, the AndyCine A6 Plus also comes with one of these to go into the screw thread on the side. However, it also comes with 1/4 inch screw threads on the top and on the bottom. So you can use a more conventional screw thread into the bottom, and you can also add additional accessories onto the top. The R7 has a 1/4 inch screw on the side, probably for more if you want to attach it to the side of a gimbal or something, and it has a 1/4 inch screw thread on the bottom, which is more where you would mount it onto a camera. The A50, however, has more connectors than you know what to do with, because it has three 3/8 of an inch screw threads, one on each of the sides and one on the bottom. The ones on the side are both flanked by a pair of 1/4 inch screw threads, so that's 4 in total, and then they also include adapters to convert the 3/8 of an inch into either another 1/4 inch screw or an M6 adapter, which I believe is what the Red camera system uses. Can't remember if the Red, but it's definitely one of them. So yeah, you can basically mount the monitor onto the camera and then add every accessory you've got into the monitor itself. So which one should you pick? What are the drawbacks of these monitors? Well, the F5 and the S5 are obviously the cheapest, so if you're on a budget, they're the way to go. But they do come with some limited features. So they don't have a touchscreen, so they can be a nuisance to operate. They don't have the ability of accepting LUTs, which, like I said, is not an absolute end of the world, and if you're not shooting in log profiles, it doesn't make a blind bit of difference. But they do give you decent clear screens in a very small package that makes them so easy to carry around. The A50 is really impressive. The twin batteries, all the additional accessories. For people on really heavy duty professional shoots, this is probably got so many features that I just don't get the use out of, but you probably would. My only real complaint about the A50, in all honesty, is it's quite big for a 5-inch monitor. Considering how big the screen is, the bezels are huge. The whole thing could be quite a bit smaller, but obviously you'd then lose the connectors on the side. The R7 is impressive for a big screen. Like I said, for these sorts of videos, big screen I've actually found to be a drawback, but if I was doing a lot of work outside, the extra brightness of the monitor, the extra size of the monitor, this would be the better choice. However, my personal favourite for me in this scenario, I've actually found to be the A6 Plus. It's not even much bigger than the little S5. The bezels are quite small on it, the screen looks really nice, the whole design is just nice and slick. For me, it's just the one I've enjoyed using more. Granted, it's one of the most expensive as well, but you can't win them all. But which one would you pick? Let me know your thoughts and comments in the box down below. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next video.